What about a living trust? Why or when do you need it if you have a chronic illness?
First of all, most of the time, let me define what a living trust is. And before I define it, let me give you a bunch of different names. And I apologize. Everyone gets upset with lawyers with terminology and jargon, but there's just a bunch of names that it may be called. So let me get them on the table because that will help you understand what you're dealing with. One of the terms is a living trust. It's a trust is a contract, a legal document between you, the person setting it up, and the trustee, the person you put in charge of something. And that person may very well be you. In most cases, should be. The document can be called a revocable living trust because you can revoke or change it at any time. That's important because you're doing this to provide a transition to care for yourself. You're doing it to provide help if you can't help yourself. You're not doing something that's irrevocable that you can't change. Some people call them loving trust. There's a whole bunch of different names for it, but we'll just call it a living trust. And don't confuse it with a living will. I didn't make up the terminology. A living will is a statement of your healthcare wishes, really a different document altogether. The purpose of most living trusts when they're done is to avoid probate, which is the legal process you go through when you pass away. That's secondary. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't even discuss it much in the book because it's really no different for you than anyone else. But the real power of a living trust is to create a tool to help you if in the future you will become incapacitated. So if you have a debilitating disease, whether it's Alzheimer's or any kind of degenerative disease, over time it may be harder and harder for you to manage your assets. So if you set up this trust, and again, it's a legal contract, you control what goes into it and how it's written and what powers you give people, and you put your bank account, your house, and your assets, not a pension, that wouldn't be appropriate in an IRA, into this trust, you can be the trustee and be in charge of these assets. You may have a friend or family member you're so close and trusting of. You may even make them a co-trustee. Depending on the state of your illness, you may start off as your own trustee alone, but you've created the structure to transition for a period of time where it gets harder for you. So when you reach a point in the progression, if you have progression of your disease, where it's harder for you to manage, maybe at that point you make somebody a co-trustee with you. So Dara and I will be co-trustees of Marty's trust. And Dara can help me if I'm either hospitalized or just not feeling up to taking care of some legal or financial matters. As a co-trustee, she can sign on my bank account, on the trust bank account rather, to pay bills and take care of things for us. And then if it reaches a point where I physically or mentally don't have the ability to serve, I would resign and let Dara take over. It's an incredibly powerful tool that bridges lots of gaps. And if you do a really comprehensive living trust, you hopefully, along with a health proxy to take care of medical decisions, you could avoid ever having a court guardianship proceeding for the court to have to appoint someone to take care of you because you've dealt with it all. It's a very powerful tool. It's applied differently than how it's often done because, again, the focus in our context is protecting you as a human being in the event your disease progresses, not worrying about probate issues. But that, again, is another example, which we've tried to do with all these Q&As and what the book focuses on, of how planning is different when you're facing the challenges of a chronic disease than it may be for somebody who is not facing those same challenges.